All right, Brian, we're back this week talking fairways this time. We're out here on number 9 fairway, and as we talked last week, the fairways in the golf course a tale of two sides. The fairways in the back 9, right about where they thought we would be here, 110 days or so into play. The front 9 a little bit behind, primarily driven by seeding date. We were able to seed that back 9 by about August of 2023, whereas here on the front 9, we were seeding holes into October of 2023, and in some cases, especially around 1 and 9 here, we were actually putting down some dormant seed that didn't pop up until 2024. And so one of the things we've heard or got questions about here on the front 9, in particular, some pockets of POA, which I know isn't uncommon, and we'll talk about why and what we're doing about that. But maybe first, can you just talk us through the difference between POA and bentgrass? I think certainly the untrained eye, sometimes even hard to tell the distinction between the two.
Sure. So POA is annual bluegrass. When you see it out on the course, it's generally a little bit more lime green, and then the leaf blades are narrower, especially in the agronomic practices that we're employing. The bentgrass, a little bit more bluish in color, and the leaf blades, they can be wide to begin with, especially as that bentgrass plant is trying to cover ground. But then over time, it starts developing a little bit more of an upright growth as the density increases.
I think that helps us a lot. I think really obvious here in some places and not. I think maybe less obvious in some other places on the golf course where you actually have some bentgrass that's a little bit further along in its maturity and some bentgrass that's maybe not. And so you see, some of those wider leaf blades growing in a couple different directions where you might think that's a foreign grass, but it's actually just bentgrass on its way to maturity. It'll ultimately, root deeper, get stronger, start growing upright, and we'll get a nice, firm, fast, tight playing surface. So let's shift then to why are we seeing POA on the golf course? I think you think back to the restoration project and the work that we did really from tee to green, maybe some folks surprised, but we're not entirely surprised given our approach to kind of how we constructed greens and tees versus how we seeded fairways. Tell us a little bit about why we're seeing that here today.
Yeah, so all the greens and tees, they were excavated, all of that soil was removed, and then new uncontaminated soil was brought in. So our tees, our greens, they look fantastic. They have a very high percentage, if not all, bentgrass on those surfaces. The fairways, we took a different approach where we weren't going to be able to replace all the soil in the fairways. So we sprayed and killed all the grass. However, there was still seed within the soil from the annual bluegrass plants. And we interseeded into that surface, and then what's the difference between the back 9 and the front 9 is with those fairways being seeded in August, it gave us an opportunity to make some applications out back that killed any annual bluegrass plants that sprouted alongside the bentgrass. This side of the road, we didn't have turf coverage until the spring of as we were opening. In fact, we were doing some sodding in July of that year. When you make that application to kill the annual bluegrass, it sets back the bentgrass a little bit as well, and we were not going to jeopardize opening the golf course with that and delaying any of those applications.
Makes a lot of sense. And so obviously we're making progress here into 2025. What's our strategy heading into this fall as the bentgrass strengthens to catch up here on this side, and maybe just a little more context to the progress you're seeing out here to date?
So our agronomic practices are all designed to support bentgrass. And currently we are suppressing the annual bluegrass. You'll see it almost, sometimes it might turn a little yellow color, and it's allowing the bentgrass plant to grow over the top of it. We want to increase the density of bentgrass on these fairways before this fall we come in with another product that will kill all the annual bluegrass. If we were to use that product right now, we would have a lot of voids in the turf. We need to have the bentgrass cover some ground and then go ahead and make that application.
Excellent. Well, hopefully that's a helpful update in terms of where we're at here out on the golf course related to the fairways. I think if anything, as you play the golf course, you see a lot of progress from number 1 to 18, and that's certainly what we'll expect here on the front 9 as we head towards the fall. So Brian, thanks for the update, and we'll look forward to being back with you next week to talk about where we're at with our fescue grass.